Hi again, everyone. So, yay! We are now in the fourth section of our chapter on stratification. Here we'll look at different theoretical perspective on this topic. We'll look at the three main theories we've been discussing in this class, which are functionalism, conflict theory, and SI, or symbolic interactionism. So let's go ahead and start with functionalism. So as you may recall, in sociology, functionalist perspective examines how society's parts operate. They cooperate with each other. Because they need each other. They have different functions, and they need to work with each other for society to exist and sustain itself in a healthy way. So I use the body as an analogy. Society is like a human body where you need, your arms, your legs, your head, your body, your chest, your lungs, and so on. They all have different functions, but they need each other in order for us to function healthily. Think about, again, using the body as an analogy is very useful for you to think, to see how society is made of different parts working collaboratively together. So in sociology, there are these two famous sociologists named Kingsley Davis and Wilbert Moore, who published the Davis-Moore thesis in 1954. They argue that the greater the functional importance of a social role, the greater must be the reward. So that means that certain tasks in societies are more valuable, and so those people should be rewarded for that. So in a way, they're saying that stratification is good because it encourages people to work hard in order to, and working hard means maybe they're providing excellent service or materials. They are productive in order to decrease cost, and they're also efficient to get things done quickly but also accurately. So these people should be rewarded for it, right? So they argue stratification is good. It's competitive, but it encourages people to be better, right? So again, more valuable the work, the greater reward. Reward can be income, prestige, and or power. So for example, right? So they say, hey, firefighter, his job is more important than, for instance, someone working as a cashier at a grocery store, because, as a firefighter, you're risking your life, on the job, right? And you have to have certain skills and training, which are much harder to attain than someone working as a cashier at a grocery store. And so this is the Davis-Moore thesis. So Melvin Timmons criticized this thesis. They do not agree with sociologist Davis and Moore. So according, Timmons asked for example, this thesis doesn't explain why certain people in the media, for example, who have little education, skill, or talent, and yet they become famous and rich on, for example, reality show, or on Twitter, on Instagram, right, by posting certain things, right? And so again, to say, well, Davis-Moore thesis sounds probably applied to many theses, but there are also some exceptions here, like media personality, the influencer that are having a lot of influence on the media, and they do make a lot of money from it. So the thesis also doesn't explain, for example, inequalities in the educational system, or inequalities based on race or due to race or gender. So Timmons believed that stratification prevented, for example, qualified people from attempting to fulfill certain roles because they were from a certain stigmatized group, such as lower class, or certain sexuality orientation, certain religion, certain race, for example. All right, so that's functionalism for you. So now we will look at conflict theory. Conflict theorists are deeply critical of social stratification. They believe that stratification only benefits some people, those on top, and not those at the bottom. The rest, or most people, are at the bottom. So I give you an analogy that, for conflict theory is the League of Nations, right, where different sport teams are ranked. by how competitive they are and how many wins they've attained, how many points they've had. So this is just an example, right? Everyone wants to be team number one, but not everyone can be number one. So everyone's competing to be number one. So in conflict theory, the people on top are like the bourgeois, the capitalist class, the bourgeois capitalist class, and everyone else are the workers, the lower class. So conflict theory asserts that stratification perpetuates inequality. So what that means is people on top make sure they stay on top. They won't want to change place at all. Okay, so the dominant group, the bourgeois capitalist class, control. Sorry for this error right here. This should be control. I'm sorry, owns. This is owns. Owns the means of production. They have the own of factories, for example, and they have a lot of power. And these people exploit the weaker group, the proletariats. And that's where most of us belong to. So they exploit. Right, the dominant group exploit the weaker group into get more resources and power. So that could be profit, right, or paying the workers less, and so on. So this idea is influenced by, in particular, by Karl Marx. And it has been developed even further today. So even though working conditions have improved a lot for workers, conflict theorists believe that the strained working relationship between employers and employees still exists. And so that's why they still embrace this model of seeing the world as filled with conflicts between different groups, and particularly in conflict with the dominant group who wants to be in dominant position for as long as possible, and they make sure that they create systems in our society such as the law, the media, education, religion even, right? They influence these institutions in order to maintain and perpetuate their dominance. SI, or Symbolic Rationalism, is a theory that uses everyday interactions of individuals to explain society as a whole. So I use the analogy of seeing society as a theater where some people are performing, expressing themselves in certain ways, and other people are watching in the audience. So there's this dynamic process, not just between or among the performers, but also with the audience as well. So in relation to stratification, SI examines it from a micro-level perspective. This analysis strives to explain how people's social standing affects their everyday interactions. So they might look at things such as different tastes in food across different social classes, or different music preferences, or what kind of clothing or style they wear, or even their hairstyle, and so on. Okay, so that is it. That concludes section 4.